Welcome back to our second half hour. Today we got our first look at an area in the Chequamegon-Nicolet National Forest where authorities say they busted a huge marijuana growing operation.
Yeah, authorities say they removed thousands of pot plants there from grow sites in the forest late last month. Law enforcement officials say they found around 24 grow sites along the Oconto River near Highway 64 in County T in Oconto County. 7 people have been charged in federal court with conspiracy to manufacture and distribute marijuana. One suspect is not shown here. He is in custody in Idaho and awaiting extradition to Wisconsin. Now today, 6 of the 7 suspects appeared in Green Bay's federal court, all of them entering not guilty pleas. The charges carry a minimum penalty of 10 years in prison. And also today, U.S. Forest Service officials showed the media the area where the suspects allegedly cultivated these marijuana plants in question.
And one of those media representatives was our Fox 11's Laura Smith, joining in on the tour and takes us there.
After a 30-minute hike that took us about a mile from the nearest paved road, U.S. Forest Service officials pointed out evidence of the alleged marijuana grow. According to authorities, the suspects operated 20 to 25 sites in the Chequamegon-Nicolet National Forest. Officials say they eradicated more than 8,000 plants from the area last week.
They would come in here and use Swedish axes, machetes, brush axes, brush saws, power saws.
Law enforcement then lifted the plants out by helicopter and buried them. At the first site we visited, officials showed us where the suspects allegedly dug up to 75 holes in this terraced area.
Each hole that you see in the ground would hold 3 to 5 different marijuana plants in them, and so they'd pack in a lot of plants into these small little areas.
And that's what officials say is different about this operation.
This year, the areas are much smaller, but there's more of them.
Seefeldt calls it a guerrilla grow, meaning the smaller sites are spread out and not as detectable.
They weren't making a big show of what they had, but they were just as effective.
Flory says marijuana growers lived on the site during the summer in shelters known as hooches, like this one.
They're very rustic shelters where they'll be sleeping, cooking, piles of garbage, and then all the pesticides, herbicides, gardening tools.
U.S. Forest Service workers are now burdened with cleaning up the garbage left behind at these grow sites, and because this is public property, the cleanup comes at a cost to taxpayers.
From the surveillance to the eradication to the actual cleanup and monitoring of the sites just takes away from what our normal mission would be in the Forest Service.
Officials say despite the damage, most areas will rehabilitate on their own.
They put chemical fertilizers in here, which should break down. We could have some minor erosion.
Now the suspects are scheduled to go to trial on November 13th. State justice officials say there have been 10 large-scale marijuana grow investigations since 2008, most of them on public land. The largest was in 2010 in the Nicolet National Forest. 13 people were arrested after nearly 15,000 plants were found in 3 counties. The second largest bust was in 2009 in Sawyer County on private property. Officials confiscated nearly 14,000 plants. No arrests were made.